I'm grateful that we are able to gather in commemoration today of Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Memorial Day. The poet Laura Gilpin wrote, "The things I know, how the living go on living and how the dead go on living with them." We know this intuitively, of course. We see our ancestors in our hands and in the creases around our eyes, and we hear our ancestors in our voices. On this beautiful and somber day, we gather at this beloved memorial and strive to recall those who died in the Shoah and the Holocaust, especially the Jewish victims. And we remember the survivors who carried their stories and taught us to remember lest we fall back into the barbarism of that terrible moment in history again. Despite the sun shining in this moment, these are again dark days, as we increasingly lose the voices of our survivors to the ravages of time, as anti-Semitism raises itself back in our society in a myriad of ways, and with it hostility and intolerance toward the beautiful diversity we see in our world. We are reminded that the task can never be complete, but so long as the dead go on living with us, we may keep that darkness at bay. Today, we will hear different Jewish voices and the voices of some of our elected officials. We are grateful to all of you for being here, to all of our participants, to the elected officials and government staffers and everyone who joins us today, so that we may be able to remember. With that, I'm going to read the order of how things are going to work, and everybody's going to remember that. We're going to call forward Cantor Pellin from Beth Emeth, followed by Seth Katzen from Jewish Federation of Delaware, Rabbi Michael Kramer, Rabbi Abe Rabinovich from Adas Kodesh. Steve Gonzer is going to introduce our elected officials who are speaking. Following that, we are going to have a reading by Rabbi Ellen Bernhardt, again from Federation, and our Jewish Community Relations Council, Cantor Pellin, Rabbi Nick Renner from Beth Shalom, Cantor Yoshua Redfern, also from Adas Kodesh, Rabbi Ellen Bernhardt again, reading Mourner's Kaddish, and then we'll conclude.
Eli, Eli, shelo yigamer le'olam, hachol v'chayam, rishu shel hamayim, v'rak hashamayim, tfilat adam, hachol v'chayam, rishu shel hamayim, v'rak hashamayim, tfilat adam. My God, oh God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
Never Shall I Forget by Elie Wiesel. Never shall I forget that night, the first night in camp, that turned my life into one long night 7 times sealed. Never shall I forget that smoke. Never shall I forget the small faces of the children whose bodies I saw transformed into smoke under a silent sky. Never shall I forget those flames that consumed my faith forever. Never shall I forget the nocturnal silence that deprived me for all eternity of the desire to live. Never shall I forget those moments that murdered my God and my soul and turned my dreams to ashes. Never shall I forget those things, even where I condemned to live as long as God himself. Never.
The dead do not speak. Nevertheless, they are heard in the still houses. Who has not heard them? They have a silence that speaks for them at night. And when the clock counts, they say, "We are young, we have died, remember us?" They say, "We have done what we could, but until it is finished, it is not done." They say, "We have given our lives, but until it is finished, no one can know what our lives gave." They say, "Our deaths are not ours, they are yours. They will mean what you make them." They say, "Whether our lives and our deaths were for peace and a new hope, or for nothing, we cannot say. It is you who must say this." They say, "We leave you our deaths. Give them their meaning. We were young," they say. "We have died. Remember us."
Loving God, we come to you with heavy hearts, remembering the 6 million Jewish souls murdered during the Holocaust and the horrors of that history, when so many groups were targeted just because of their identity, and the genocides that followed. We recognize destructive prejudice that drive people apart. Forgive us when we give space to fear, negativity, and hatred of others simply because they are different from us. In the light of God, we see everyone as equally precious, a part of the divine, and can know the courage to face the darkness. Through our prayers and actions, help us to stand together with those who are suffering, so that light may banish all darkness, and may we live to see the day that love will prevail over hate and good will triumph over evil. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to now introduce the Honorable Mayor of Wilmington, John Carney, our former governor, and I have to say we all owe him a debt of gratitude because he, on July 23rd, 2020, signed HB 318, which mandated Holocaust education in all Delaware schools for students 6th through 12th grade. He signed the bill without hesitation and has always been a supporter of the Helena and Preston Holocaust Education Committee's mission to raise awareness about the consequences of hate, discrimination, and indifference. So I'd like to introduce the mayor and former governor right now.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. It's a beautiful day this afternoon, unlike most years when we have this memorial where it's usually cold and rainy and windy. I tried today to keep my remarks on one page, expecting that the wind would be here to blow it away. But it's good to be with all of you, as hard as this event is every year for all of us, and especially for me as an elected official. You're always want to capture or say some words that capture the emotion of the moment. It's just impossible to do. It's just impossible to do. But thank you to Rabbi Robinson and to the other rabbis who are here, to the Jewish Federation of Delaware, all the organizers. Special memory this morning of Ann Jaffe, who is a Holocaust survivor who normally would be with us, who passed away last year. It really is so important that we hold this recognition every year in front of this memorial, this sacred ground, if you will. I think it's more important this year than ever, as we've seen the blatant anti-Semitism across our country since the Hamas-led violent attacks of October 2023. In 2022, I had the chance to travel again to Israel. And I traveled with a delegation of governors. One of our stops in Jerusalem was at the nation's Holocaust Museum, Yad Vashem. And it was my second visit to the memorial. But I got to tell you, it was twice as hard as the first time that I was there with a group of Delawareans more than 10 years ago. I'm not sure exactly why. It made me sick to my stomach, and I actually had trouble going through some of the rooms. But looking back at that visit and the events that have taken place since October 7th reminds me why we need this event today and why it's important every year that we gather. It's because we can never forget the horrors of the Holocaust, to make sure it never happens again. To make sure it never happens again. And importantly, at the same time, we have to call out and repudiate anti-Semitism wherever it is, because we know the hatred and the extremism, what it can do. Israel is a land of safety and security for the Jewish people. It's a special place, a holy place. But as we've seen over the past 2 years, that security in that place is constantly at risk. We know that Israel is a land surrounded by hostile neighbors. It's such a small place with neighbors right next door. But what is also abundantly clear is how important it is to the Jewish people. As I said, I traveled with a group of Delawareans. We know what Israel means to Jews here in the United States and around the world. This land, this sacred home, is where the Jewish traditions have lived and thrived after the horrors and trauma of the Holocaust. It's a reminder to all of us and to the world what Israel was built from. Isaiah 41 tells us, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." And so we join together today to say firmly, never again, and trust in God's righteous right hand. Once again, we stand against Semitism, anti-Semitism in any form, because we've seen where it has led.
Before I introduce the governor, I would like to recognize someone who also was mostly responsible for having the Holocaust education bill passed, and that is Representative Deb Heffernan, without whom I think we never would have had a bill. So she deserves a lot of credit. Okay, now I get to introduce the governor. And it's an honor to do so. I know that that Matt Myers is new at his governorship, but I also know that he has been a staunch supporter of Holocaust remembrance probably since he was a young child, and for that we are very grateful. I know that he will remember, and he will also help us all remember, so the tragedy never happens again.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for being here. To our State Insurance Commissioner, Trinity Navarro, thank you for joining us today as well. Representative Heffernan and all those who've come today, thank you for gathering not just on this day, but each and every year. Thank you to Derek, to Rabbi Robinson, and the Rabbi and Cantors Association of Delaware. Thank you for bringing us together. I always get a little nervous when I talk. When I'm before a near minion of rabbis, I get even more nervous. I was thinking as I was standing there and the mayor was talking, like, why am I here? Like, what brought me to stand here in the position I'm in on this day? And not only to be in the job I currently have as governor of the state, but to care so deeply about horrific acts that happened now 80-some years ago. And as I look around, there is, I may be wrong, but I don't think there's anybody here who is actually in Europe or Germany through the 20s, 30s, and 40s. For most of the years we've held this Yom HaShoah, there have been people who are here. And I recognize that my presence here is in large part because of individuals like Joseph Bayer, like Helena Wynn Preston, like Ann Jaffe, who the mayor mentioned, like Dorothy Finger, who taught me from the youngest age how important it was that we remember. And I think it was very important then, but the reality then is if we didn't remember, they certainly remembered. And many of them came to have, not just those in our community, but across the country and across the world, came to have a voice to speak to us. But because of the realities of life and Lador Vador from generation to generation, that generation is largely no longer with us, which means that their spirit and their voice and their message about the facts that actually happened, and the message that so often at its core was a message of hope for a brighter and more beautiful future, is a message that I believe we each individually and collectively now have an obligation to carry on. It's so important to me that I really wanted to bring my 14-month-old here today. I went home and it was nap time, and it was a hard decision, and Mom ultimately said we should not wake a sleeping angel. So, but listen, today as we mark Yom HaShoah, the Day of Remembrance, we honor and remember 11 million lives that were lost in the Shoah, including 6 million Jews murdered. We reflect on their children, their grandchildren, their great-nephews and nieces, some of whom are here today. We reflect on those who were targeted simply for existing as themselves, being who they wanted to be in a society with leadership that was bent on eradicating them. We think about those who bravely resisted and chose to fight back amidst impending peril to themselves, putting themselves in tremendous danger. And we also reflect on those who chose not to, who chose to silently stand by even when they saw things that they knew were injustices. We recall the survivors who for decades and decades, enduring trauma and unimaginable hurt, managed to recount heartbreaking scenes of senseless tragedy so that we all could learn and come to an event like today, even after they're gone. Remembering the Holocaust is essential to ensuring it never happens again. We must preserve the stories told by survivors and the lessons that they provided us. These lessons need to exist. Thanks to Representative Heffernan, Governor Carney, and our state legislature, in our schools, in our history textbook, but also outside schools as well, in our dialogue, so that future generations can identify the roots of hate when we see it and understand the unfathomable devastation that can occur if left unchallenged. Unfortunately, as I reflect today, the same intolerance and bigotry from 80 years ago still persists in so many ways today. Today, there are 59 hostages as I speak in Gaza, Israeli hostages, for over 58 of whom for over 18 months. Anti-Semitism did not perish with the Nazi regime. As we reflect on this tragedy in the past, let us commit to a brighter future, a future in which no person, regardless of who they are, where they come from, who they love, what languages they speak, or what religion they believe in, none of them ever face intolerance, prejudice, or hate. We must build movements grounded in compassion, not hatred, seek common grounds, not division, and confront the smallest incidents of racism, sexism, or discrimination in any form. I ask everyone here not just to commit to telling the stories of the Shoah, but to look around us here in Delaware and identify the roots of those stories that are here among us today. Again, I'm grateful to be here today with all of you. It always means a lot to me and serves as an amazing reminder for all of us to see so many people come out each and every year, as the mayor referenced today, in beautiful weather, but sometimes even the coldest and rainiest weather, to recognize and remember. To remember the lives lost, and to remember the tremendous community we have here to build a brighter future. We are strongest when we can rely on each other and work forward together. Thank you for being here and for your critical role in keeping this collective memory alive. Thank you.
We take this oath, we take it in the shadows of flames, whose tongues scar the soul of our people. We vow in the name of our dead parents and children, we vow we shall never let the sacred memory of our perished 6 million of our brethren be forgotten or erased. We saw them hungry, in fear. We saw them in the loneliness of night. We saw them at the threshold of death, true to their faith. We received their silence in silence. We merged their tears with ours. We are the remaining witnesses of deportations, executions, mass graves, death camps, mute prayers, and cries of revolt. The young, the old, the rich, and the poor, the ghetto fighters, the partisans, the scholars, and the messianic dreamers, the tradesmen and the businessmen, the Hasidim and the Mitnagdim. Like a cloud, we saw them vanish. We take this oath, visions become word, to be handed down from father to son, from mother to daughter, handed down from generation to generation. Zachor, remember. author unknown.
The song Zognit Kainmol, Never Say, was inspired by the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, but moreover, it was inspired by the horrors of the Holocaust, by those who were taken from their homes and taken from their towns and their communities for being different, for being what the government did not want them to be, and put into concentration camps and other deportation centers and ghettos, like the Warsaw Ghetto. This poem, written by Hirsch Glick and set to the music by Soviet composer Dmitry Pakras, became the official hymn of the Vilna partisan fighters and is often referred to as the partisan song, or the hymn of the partisans. Zognit Kainmol is a song that is sung around the world to signal courage and resistance and resilience. It is a song about the past, but it is also a song about tomorrow and today. Here's the English translation. Never say that this is the final road for you, through leaden skies though leaden skies may cover over days of blue. As the hour that we longed for is so near, our step beats out the message, we are here. From lands so green with palms to lands all white with snow, we shall be coming with our anguish and our woe. And where a spurt of our blood fell on the earth, there our courage and our spirit have rebirth. The early morning sun will brighten our day, and yesterday our foe will fade away. But if the sun delays and in the east remains, this song as password for generations must maintain. Therefore, never say that this is the final road for you, though leaden skies may cover over days of blue. As the hour that we longed for is so near, our step beats out the message, we are here. If you know it and you wish, please join me. Sag nicht keinmal, als du gehst dem letzten Weg, hosch Himmeln bleiene, verstellen bleie Tag. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Schau, Svetter beugt an unser Trott, mir seinen da. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Schau, Svetter beugt an unser Trott, mir seinen da. Wo grünen Pammenland bis weißend Land von Schnee, wir kommen auch mit unser Pein, mit unser Weh. Und wo gefallen sie, spritzt von unser Blut, strotzen wird dort unser Gwure, unser Mut. Und wo gefallen sie, spritzt von unser Blut, strotzen wird dort unser Gwure, unser Mut. Es wird die Morgensen bald gilden uns dem Heinz, und der Nächten wird verschwinden mit dem Feind. Nur euch versammeln wird die Sonne in dem Kajor, wie a Paroso gehen das Lied von dort zu dort. Nur euch versammeln wird die Sonne in dem Kajor, wie a Paroso gehen das Lied von dort zu dort. To sag nicht keinmal, als du gehst den letzten Weg, hosch Kimmlen bleiene, verstellen bleie Tag. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Schau, es wird abheugt und unser Trott mir seinen da. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Schau, es wird abheugt und unser Trott mir seinen da.
In just a moment, we'll hear the words of El Male Rachamim and Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish. These two prayers, they are a customary, ordinary part of Jewish memorial. You'll hear them at funerals. You'd hear them at memorial services, at Yizkor prayers. There is a regularity to them. But I want to stop and focus on the words of that one prayer, El Male Rachamim, God who is full of compassion. Think about that for just a moment, that in response to the destruction of so many innocent lives, we would remember them by calling God the compassionate one. That's daring. That's bold. There is a lot to that to unpack. This idea that we would take all of the suffering, the loss, the destruction, and we would turn around and call God the compassionate one. There is something aspirational in that looks forward as well, that doesn't just dwell in its own time, in its own memory, in its own setting, but says something to us about how we might look at God, at the world around us, and how we might be inspired to live our own lives. Let our memories of those who perished in the Shoah and that destruction be memories of compassion. May they inspire us to live lives that are informed by and uplifted by compassion in turn. Cantor.
If I may.
Sure, sure.
Traditionally, we invite those participating to rise physically, spiritually, as you are able. We invite you to do so.
El Molei Rachamim Shochein Bamromim Hamitzei Menuchot Nechona Al Kanfei Hashchina B'malot Kedoshim U'Tehorim Kezarakiya Mazirim Le'nishmot Rivavot of the Yisrael Anashim Nashim V'Tov Shenegu Shenishchatu Shenechelko Shenisrefu V'Shenikberu Chaim Kiddush Hashem Ba'aratzot Memshelet Gemonio Kulom Yedoshim U'Tarim U'Vahem Ki Tzadikim Arsei Havanon Vadiri HaTorah Ana Baracha Asiremes je fakal yadobim. Utzror bitzror achayim adishbatem. Adonai unachlotom. V'yanuchu b'shalom amishkvotom. Venomar Amen.
Please join in the recitation of the Mourner's Kaddish. Russ handed out sheets a few moments ago. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah. Yalma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute. V'chayecho nuvyomecho nuv'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael. Agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach li'olam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar Yitalal Shmei Dekudasha B'richu La'elah Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata Tushbechata V'Nechemata Ta'amiran V'Alma V'Imru Amen. Yehe Shlama Rabba Min Shmaya V'Chaim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen. Oseh Shalom V'Imromav Huya Aseh Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael V'Imru Amen. You may be seated.
Elie Wiesel wrote, "If we forget, the dead will be killed a second time." If you are the child of a survivor or survivors, I ask that you raise your hands at this time. And if you lost loved ones in the Shoah, I ask for you to raise your hands at this time. And if you were inspired by survivors who taught you their story, I ask you to raise your hand at this time. Their stories are now our stories. And so long as we tell their stories, so long as we strive to remember them, then even those whose names are lost to history are not truly gone. They remain with us. They remain a part of our story. May our gathering today preserve the memories of the 6 million who perished and the survivors who told their stories and who are now lost to us. Thank you again to our participants, to the rabbis and cantors who participated in this memorial. Special thanks to Steve Gonzer, to the Jewish Federation of Delaware, and to the city officials who helped make sure we had all the resources necessary to remember. And again, especially thanks to all of you for gathering today. May we leave in peace this day, and let us say, Amen. This concludes our service.